Welcome to another episode of The Read Pile. Today I'm going to be talking about Goldfish and Jinx and a little bit of story in the lead up to this. So I went on a road trip last weekend. My wife and I drove out to Indiana to see the eclipse, and I grabbed Goldfish because she was going to be driving, and so I knew that I had a bunch of hours. I finished this in that 24-hour period, and in the meantime I've been working my way through Jinx, which is much longer. It's denser. I'll talk about that in a bit too, but I think I'm only about halfway through this. I've still got a long way to go. Anyway, I've talked in previous videos about sort of periods in which I wasn't buying comics. I think I mentioned it in Scud and Battle Chasers. And Goldfish and Jinx, Powers 2, I became a fan of Brian Bendis after one of these periods where I wasn't buying comics. I had just moved back to Illinois and I started buying again. I think I started with Preacher. I was buying about one trade per week at the time. As I worked my way through all of Preacher, I think I moved over to Transmetropolitan, which had either just recently or was ending at the time. So this is roughly 2002. I grabbed Goldfish and Jinx, and I love them. These two have been on the shelf staring at me since really I started doing these videos. I've wanted to get back into it, but I also knew that they were on the lengthier side. I wanted to build up a little bit of room before I dove into these, and thankfully I did, because Jinx is just massive. So Goldfish, I'm going to say that the primary difference between these, there's many, but reading these back to back, Goldfish is more like a movie. It hits hard, it hits fast, it's sort of unrelenting in its pace. He has a goal, he's relentlessly going towards that. Everything in his way, he just plows through. Jinx is a much slower, denser paced story. It's more like a television season, whereas this is a movie. So it's very different. It has taken me much longer. It's really ever since getting back, so roughly a week, I've made it through half of this book, but I read, my weekly comics as well. Anyway, moved back, started buying comics again, became a fan of Bendis, and I've probably complained more about Bendis in the last 20 years than any other comic creator, possibly, probably. And it's because as soon as I became a fan of this, I wanted more. I wanted more crime, I wanted more Powers, specifically Powers. It was the ongoing at the time. I'm like, yes, just give me more Powers. If this thing shows up on camera, it's fine. It looks worse than it is. It's fine. But I wanted more Powers. He jumped over to Marvel, and I'm like, dude, I don't care. This is not what I wanted. And it took me a very long time to get over, like, I'm just not going to get more Powers. And he came back basically to end it, but even that was a very long, slow process. Anyway, I complain about Bendis because for a very long time he just wasn't putting out what I wanted, and he's moved from publisher to publisher. I think Powers has been republished everywhere. So originally Image, then Marvel, then DC, and now it's being done at Dark Horse. And it's great. Powers is great. These are both great. He's a great writer, except I just don't... I lost interest. I lost interest during the Marvel years. I kind of was... I think even at DC, the well was already poisoned before he started writing, because he took over Superman from Tomasi and Gleason that were just knocking that book out of the park. And then he aged up John Kent, and for that I will never forgive him. So I really don't care what he's doing now. He's lost me. Somehow I'm still subscribed to his... Here's a tangent. Somehow I'm subscribed to his Substack, and at some point last year he put out a preview of... he put out the first issue of, I think his series was called The Ones, and it's the protagonists of fictional stories after their stories have ended, and now what are they doing? But he puts out this PDF, and for a bunch of it, it's not quite 2-page spreads, but you're supposed to read both left and right pages across instead of down and then across. And the PDF is constructed in such a way where you only see one page at a time. So, like, the reading is just utterly broken. And I'm like, what the f*** did you... How do you put out... You're going to put together a promotional material. You're going to give it away for free. A bunch of people are going to look at this. And you completely f*** up the reading experience. I'm like, how did anyone let you do this? How did this happen? You should know better. Damn it. People really piss me off. Anyway, Goldfish. 6 minutes into this video. Goldfish is great. Jinx is also great. I love them both. As I said, this is what made me a fan of Bendis. There's a lot of emotions tied up with Bendis. But the story, which I haven't yet talked about, the main character is named Goldfish. He doesn't like that name, but it's what people call him. He returns to town after, I think, 10-year span, and this is what happens before he returns to town. This is a prequel. He comes back to town, and he is trying to get something from his ex-girlfriend, and he kind of, their relationship did not end well, so he's going at it. There's a gun involved. It is a crime story. He is a con man. And you can see sort of the denseness of words here. But what really attracted me to this is he has a sort of Quentin Tarantino-esque flair for dialogue, for conversations. There's this opening sequence here, which is him on a payphone, and it's almost entirely word balloons. There's a total of 6 panels. It's mostly black. There's, at one point in here, there's a conversation between Goldfish and the ex-girlfriend, and it's entirely done in script. That's all this is. And here, it's not even labeled who's talking. You're just picking it up from context of the back and forth. But, I mean, there's a little bit of art. All of this is photo reference. There's credits at the back for who the models were. But it's... I loved the novelty of it, the experimentation, what he was trying, what he was, I'm going to say, pulling off. Here's more just, just dense dialogue. I loved it. I love everything about it. During the reread now, there's a couple of instances where this isn't the example that I'm looking for, but there are a couple of instances where the word balloons go off the page. And there are clever letterers where you can do things like, there's one. This is still legible, but there are ones where the words are actually cut off. And I think what I thought originally is that someone was being clever, like there. This is actually more than I was expecting to find so quickly, so easily. But there are instances, clever letterers, clever writers working in collaboration, where what is being said on a panel isn't really as important, and so you can cut it off, you can cover it up, and either the other character that they're talking to isn't paying attention, or it's just not that important, and it's, to convey something that isn't, the words. This, I think, is just a screw-up. They didn't know where the edge of the page was, because it's very early comics creation stuff, but it's still well-constructed, and like I said, the experimentation with it, I loved. I've said this in previous videos too, show me something new, keep me entertained, and you'll hook me. And this is all of that. Like, at the time, nobody else was doing comics like this. I loved it. I loved it and devoured it. I became a long-term fan. Goldfish is a crime tragedy, I'll say. He is, I've mentioned this a couple times, he's going after a goal. He's trying to both take apart his ex-girlfriend and to get something from her. She is more powerful in the situation than him, so he runs into some old friends. Everyone, and I've mentioned this in previous videos too, what I love is where everyone has their own agenda, and that frequently conflicts. It rarely, at least in Goldfish, aligns with what other characters want. There's some very temporary alliances, but really everyone is crashing into each other. It's phenomenal. It's really well done writing. Everyone feels like a distinct character, and it is character driven, not plot driven, if that makes sense to anyone. It's really well done. It is recommended. Just know that it's an early work, so it's not. I don't think I've mentioned. He's drawn all of this too. I mentioned it's photo reference, but his name is the only one on the cover because he was originally an artist back in the 90s. So it's really well done. Goldfish is great. I'm working my way through Jinx right now. This is more well crafted. There's so far no letter balloons that are off the page. It is, I've said it's slower, it's denser. There's an entire page conversation in here where two people are talking about watching letterbox movies on TV. So you have a rectangular video, watching it on a square, and like getting the video cut off, or watching it full frame, and like I don't know. It's much slower. It's also great. It's just this is, I'm gonna say, more refined. He's more familiar with what he's doing. It's more well crafted than Goldfish. In the same time period is also Torso and Fire. I think I gave Fire away years ago. I just wasn't a fan of that. I also have Torso. It's here somewhere. Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I see it now. I don't know if I'm rereading Torso because I think once was enough. It's good. It's just very different. These are fictional. That's sort of based on true story. But these two are recommended. They're great. I think I will jump over to, I need to find it. I think it's right there. I will read The Ultimate Death of Peter Parker. I think I'll do that next. But these are great. I don't know, man. Bendis is tough for me. He's probably the creator that I've talked about the most among friends, family over the last 2 decades, just because he's like, I really like, and at the same time, the choices he's made professionally, I'm just like, I can't get on board with any of this. Just go back to the indie stuff, which he has done, and I'm still not buying it. Like, I gave up a long time ago. Anyway, I'm recommending these. They're great. They've been published multiple times. I believe Dark Horse is doing it if they haven't already, but grab it. If you get the chance, just know it's early in his career. It's a little bit shaky. The story's worth it, though. Absolutely.